G'day everyone and welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark. My name is Mark and this is the pre-game show for the game that's coming up on Friday night at the Aviva Stadium between Ireland and the New Zealand All Blacks. Let's get into it. G'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Great to have you all here. Don't forget, put your comments in what you're thinking about this game. I'm very interested to read what you're feeling, and now that the two teams have been named, I'm going to go through the teams and then give you my views on what I think is the most important aspects to look for in this game that's taking place on Friday night. Okay, let's start off with Ireland and have a look at their forwards first of all. And we're in the front row, we've got Porter, Kelleher and Beelum. Interesting front row with those injuries that have been impacting Ireland this particular week. Now, of course, Dan Sheehan is their usual starting number 2. I think he's going to be missed in this game. He's that guy that turns up every now and again and scores a try out of nowhere. And I think it's his general play in particular that Ireland are going to miss in this particular game. But it's going to be good to see how long Kelleher can go for and how they can handle this particular All Black front row. And we'll see who they've named in their team shortly. Moving on to the locks for Ireland, and we've got McCarthy and we've got Ryan. Two great locks here, very experienced and going up against a couple of good All Black locks as well. But I think Ireland in the locking positions are going to have a slight advantage in this particular game. And then moving on to the back three in the forwards, and we've got Byrne, Van der Fleer and Doris for Ireland. Great back three here. I'm always impressed with Josh Van der Fleer and Caelan Doris, to say the least. I think they're both really exceptionally good players, and they seem to raise their level to another level when they play against the All Blacks. So it's going to be good to see how they go. So that's the starting 8 for Ireland. I think they're going to miss Sheehan a little bit in this game, particularly in general play. But for the rest of it, I think this pack can really take it up to the All Blacks, particularly on how we've seen the All Blacks play so far. And don't forget, in this video I'm going to be covering off the All Blacks team as well. Now, who have the Irish selected in their forwards to come in off the bench? This is going to be another interesting aspect of the game, and we're going to see Herring, Healy, O'Toole's come in, who's a new one on the bench for Ireland, Henderson and O'Mahony. So they've got plenty of experience there to come off the bench. And I think the benches, as usual, are going to have a big impact on this game, and expect this Irish forward bench to do very, very well when they come on. Of course, Peter O'Mahony's not going to take any cheap shots from any of the All Blacks in this game. Now, moving on to the back line for Ireland, and there was some conjecture around who was going to be in the number 10 jersey for this game. But I always thought it was going to be Jack Crowley, and he's been the one that's given the nod. But starting off at halfback, and we're going to see Jamison Gibson Park back in the jersey again, and that's going to be great. We didn't see him during the summer tour of Ireland, of course, this year. He's back in the team, and he's going to be teaming up with Jack Crowley at number 10. And then it's Bundyar Key and Gary Ringrose in the centres. Probably two of the best centre pairings in World Rugby at the moment. Looking forward to seeing how those two guys go up against their counterparts in the All Black team, that you're going to find out who that is very shortly in this video. And then on the wings, it's great to see Mac Hansen back for the Irish again. He was been missing in action as well for quite a while from this Irish team, so it's great to have him back on the wing. The Aussie speedster, of course, is well known to scoring tries for Ireland, and he's going to be doing his damnedest to get over the try line, I'm sure, against the All Blacks on Friday night. And then on the other wing for Ireland, we've got James Lowe, of course, no stranger to this level of rugby, and of course, as I mentioned in most of my videos, including the Ireland team, James Lowe's left foot is an absolute weapon for them that can get them out of a lot of danger in exiting their 22, but he can also find the odd 50-22, so watch out for James Lowe. And then at fullback, we've got Hugo Keenan, one of the best fullbacks, I think, in World Rugby, and it'll be great to see what form he brings into this autumn international series this year. So there you go, that's the starting backline for the Irish, a fantastic backline. One of the best, I think, in World Rugby at the moment, and it's going to be really interesting to see whether or not they're able to break down this New Zealand defensive line, how they're going to do that, and also from a kicking point of view, how important is that going to be in this game. Then looking at the bench for the backs for Ireland, and we're going to see Connor Murray, we're going to see Frawley, and we're going to see Osborne. And there's 3 really good reserves to come on in the backs. I like what Frawley did last year. He was tremendous for the Irish. Of course, that dramatic drop goal in that game, that final game they actually played. And then Osborne as well has been another standout for me. He's fitted into this Irish team very well and had some distinctive games that I think make sure that he deserves the Irish jersey. So I think this is a really good back bench for the Irish, and they can definitely have an impact when they come on. Okay, so Scott Robertson has named the All Black team to take on Ireland at the Aviva Stadium on Friday night. Let's have a look at the All Blacks now. Starting off in their forwards, and the front row is unchanged to what we saw against England. It's Tamaiti Williams, Asafa Amua and Tyrell Lomax. So a little bit of a surprise there. Many of us thought Ethan de Groot would be back in, but we are seeing Tamaiti Williams start this game, which is a good one for him. And then in the locks, we're seeing Scott Barrett and Tupou Vai. So Scott Robertson didn't go with the option of starting Patrick Tuipulotu. He's coming in off the bench, but we're going to see Tupou Vai there again. Didn't have his best game perhaps against England. He's been given an opportunity against Ireland, but he has been playing well throughout the season. And I think he's been one of the youngsters to really shine for this All Black team so far in 2024. Then moving on to the back 3, I guess they're picking themselves at the moment, despite everybody's wish to see Wallace Satiti at number 8 and Ardie Savea at number 7. We are seeing Wallace Satiti at 6, we're seeing Sam Cane at 7, and we're seeing Ardie Savea at number 8. So that seems to be Scott Robertson's go-to back forward combinations at the moment, considering we've got injuries still to the likes of Blackadder and also to Dalton Papali'i. So those are the front 8 that are going to start this game for the All Blacks. Let me know in the comments what you think. Anyone miss out there that you thought was going to get in there? And do you think that Patrick Tuipulotu should be starting this game for the All Blacks, or is he better coming off the bench? I think he's better coming off the bench at this stage. Okay, looking at the forwards that are coming off the bench for the All Blacks, and the front row that'll come on the field off the bench is going to be, yes, George Bell's got a game for the All Blacks, so that's a good one. Tuanga Fussi's going to come in and Tossi's going to come as well. So I expect that this All Black bench in the front row is going to have an impact. They're going to have to take it to this Irish team in the last 20 minutes or so of this game. And then the 2 other forwards coming off the bench, I just mentioned it, Patrick Tuipulotu and Sapini Finau is going to come off the bench for the All Blacks. We saw him last week against England, and it seems as though Scott Robertson was happy with what he saw, but I can tell you those 2 are going to have to really step up their game against this Irish bench, who are going to give the All Blacks, I think, a lot of problems in the last 20 minutes of this game. Okay, moving on to the All Blacks backline, and what was going to happen here? Were there going to be any changes from the starting? Well, there had to be at number 10 because of Beauden Barrett's injury. But we'll start off at number 9, and it's Cortez Ratama who's got the nod ahead of Cam Roigard to start this game. And I think this is a good move for Scott Robertson. I've been saying in previous games that I think Ratama is more effective starting the game. He's one of those players that builds into the rhythm of a game, and he's not as impactful coming off the bench than what I think Cam Roigard is. This is going to cause a little bit of a problem for Robertson, I think, next year as he starts to look at how to use these 2 players, because he's probably going to use Cam Roigard in there as the starting 9 next year. But for now, we're going to see Cortez Ratama in this game starting as the number 9. And then outside him, as everybody expected, Damien McKenzie's going to be in the 10 jersey. More on that in a minute. And then moving outside, as also predicted, we're going to see Jordie Barrett and Rieko Ioane in the centres for the All Blacks. If you've been watching my videos throughout the year, you'll know exactly what I think about that. And many of you agree with me as well. Going on to the wings for the All Blacks, Caleb Clark, Mark Talia hold their place, and Will Jordan is going to be in again at fullback. So we'll have to see whether Caleb Clark gets a little bit more ball this week than what he did against England, and can Mark Talia continue the form that we saw him play against England when he scored 2 really good tries for the All Blacks. Some of you said in the comments that Jordan didn't play that well at fullback. Well, all eyes are going to be on him again this weekend. So that leaves the 3 predictable ones to come off the bench for the All Blacks in the backline. It's going to be Cam Roigard, Anton Leonard-Brown and Stephen Perifetta. Yes, Stephen Perifetta is going to be there. So Robertson has left himself open the option that if we do see any wobbles in this game from Damien McKenzie, then Stephen Perifetta can come on and cover that 10 position. So that's going to be an interesting play. So those are the two teams that are going to run out on the field at some stage during this game at the Aviva Stadium. Now, what do I think is going to happen in this game? Who's going to win it? And what are the things that we need to watch out for? Let's get into those points right now. Well, a couple of things I want to say. First of all, Ireland have got the better measure of the All Blacks outside of the Rugby World Cup, and if it wasn't for Sam Whitelock's heroics in the Rugby World Cup in the last minutes of that quarterfinal last year, things would have been very different, I feel. But the All Blacks did get across the finish line in that game, and Ireland were ruining their chances, I feel, in getting a little bit deeper into that tournament. But Ireland will be going into this game at the Aviva Stadium with many things on their side. They've played the Springboks in South Africa and they've beaten them in a game down there. They've also gone to #1 in the world, and they're going to be playing this game in front of their favourite crowd back at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. They've also got some players back into this team that I think are going to make a big impression, and I'm talking about the likes of Jamison Gibson-Park and Mac Hansen in particular. I think those are two players that really have a big impact on this Irish team, and we're going to see how the depth of their squad goes with their bench that's going to come on as well. So all indications are there for me that this Irish team has the resources available to them to be able to take on and beat the All Blacks in this particular game. Now, while the All Blacks did have a win against England, and I believe it was only because England missed the two chances they had to win that game, there was still some things that I wasn't impressed with that All Blacks performance, and it's all going to centre around the performance of the number 10 again in this particular game, and that's Damien McKenzie. Many of you know that I'm not a fan of him starting. I love the way that he came on the as a reserve last week against England and did what I think he's best suited to doing, having that impact off the bench. So one of the things that we need to watch in this game is Damien McKenzie's lateral running. If he starts doing this, then I think the All Blacks are going to have all sorts of problems because they're not going to be able to set up their attacking line in the right way. And it's also going to give the Irish Lucies an opportunity to come through and absolutely put a lot of pressure on McKenzie and get the ball through turnovers. So expect Byrne, Van der Fleer and Doris to give McKenzie a hard time throughout this game, trying to cut down his options and then force him into doing some lateral running so that the Irish defensive line can take advantage of that. Another thing we need to watch out for with McKenzie is his kicking in general play. In some games this year, it's been very poor. It's given the ball away to the opposition where they've been able to counter-attack very effectively. We saw that against South Africa, and we're going to see it again this weekend if McKenzie doesn't have good kicks in general play. We've got Mac Hansen, James Lowe and Hugo Keenan, who are all very good at counter-attacking, can break open a defensive line, and if they go for 30 or 40 metre runs and set up second phase ball for the Irish on the back of that counter-attack, that's going to mean danger for the Irish. Unlike last week where I thought England were a little bit nullified when it came to scoring tries against the All Blacks, I don't think Ireland are going to have that sort of problem, and we've seen them being able to break through this Kiwi backline on many occasions. And that brings me on to the next thing that we need to look out for in this game, and that's the performance of Jordie Barrett and Rieko Ioane at 12 and 13. Again, not two players that I'm very fond of in these two positions, and I think going back to earlier in the year, Scott Robertson should have done more experimentation with these positions so that when we got to this time of the season, if these players are not performing at the best level, then they have other options in the All Blacks squad. It's almost like we don't have them as options anymore because we don't have those players playing on a regular basis. We've seen Billy Proctor a couple of times. He's gone home to be with his wife in New Zealand for the birth of their first child, so he's not an option for this game. And David Havili has been the other option that Scott Robertson has tried, and quite frankly, I don't know why Havili has been in this team. Now, I suspect the Irish backline will find gaps in the All Black defensive line, and as a result of that, Bundy Ake and Gary Ringrose are going to be very, very dangerous as they look at getting through that centre pairing of Jordie Barrett and also Rieko Ioane. But I think one of the most telling things in this game is going to be discipline, and if we look at the All Blacks record of late, they've had yellow cards in most of their games, and they've gone down to 14 men. They need to really stay on top of the penalty count and not put themselves under too much pressure where they're giving away a yellow card or even worse. And I think this is an area where I think Ireland will really target the All Blacks. They'll try to put them under pressure, and to do that, I think the Irish could play smart through Jack Crowley by having a very good kicking strategy. If they put the All Blacks deep into their own half and put them under pressure from coming out of their own line, they've got a couple of issues to deal with. And the first one is, how does Damien McKenzie handle that pressure for the All Blacks? So if I was Ireland, I'd be putting up some high balls to Will Jordan and testing him under pressure, also isolating him at the back, and then keeping the All Blacks pinned down with good set piece play in the All Black territory. I think that's a way that they can unravel this All Black team. Now, we all know the All Blacks are going to come out and try and play a fast, high-paced game to upset the Irish, and they're going to do that by bringing their wings into play and also looking at Will Jordan running on angles off Damien McKenzie. We saw it last week with Beauden Barrett open up the door for Will Jordan to get through the English defence. Expect the All Blacks to try that again against Ireland this weekend as well. I think where the All Blacks might come unstuck in this game is the Irish defence is going to be much more up on top of Damien McKenzie, and I think the pressure he's going to be under is going to be a telling part of this game. Now, the All Blacks are going to have to do their best in the scrums to try and get some kind of dominance when it comes to ball in this game. But for me, it's all going to be about how does Cortez Ratama and Damien McKenzie use that ball. I would like to see the All Blacks use more combinations of play from the 9 position rather than going out to number 10, because that's what puts a lot of pressure on Damien McKenzie, and he starts lateral running. That causes problems, and it gives the defensive line time to get up on the outside backs as well. So I'd like to see Cortez Ratama calling more plays, going for some sniping runs as well, keeping the Irish defence on their toes. So let's see how the All Blacks play this one. Are they going to play it from number 9, or are they going to put all their eggs in one basket with Damien McKenzie? It's going to be interesting to find out. So how's this one going to go? Well, I'm calling it that it's the Irish games to lose, even though the All Blacks, of course, they're a great team and they can turn up on any given day. I'm just not convinced that this All Black team is as good as the team that beat Ireland at the Rugby World Cup last year. And they're definitely not playing as well in the last 20 minutes as that team was. So we'll have to see again. I think the last 20 of this game is going to be absolutely pivotal. I think Ireland's got more to show in the last 20 minutes. I think the All Black bench last week looked better than it did this particular week. But hey, I'm here to be proven wrong, that's for sure. But with all the other factors, it's at Aviva Stadium. The Irish got it into their heads that they've got it over top of the All Blacks right now. And I think with their confidence win against the Springboks in South Africa, all those factors are going to help Ireland go into this game believing that they can beat the All Blacks. And if they get some points early on the board and they get an early lead by putting pressure on the All Blacks, it's going to be very hard for the All Blacks to come back into this game. Expect a very close game at the Aviva Stadium, but I'm picking Ireland by 1 or 2 points in this one. I think it's going to be a nail biter, and I'm just looking forward to Rugby being the absolute winner. Okay, so there we go. Those are my thoughts about this particular game. Now, I know all my Kiwi bros are going to give me a hard time for picking Ireland, but don't forget, I'm a rugby fan first, and a absolute transparency on that one. And of course, the All Blacks are my number 1 team, but I just think this Irish team has the ability to go one better than the All Blacks in this particular game, given the way the All Blacks are closing out games so far in 2024. Okay, let me know in the comments what you're feeling about this game. Also, let me know about the selections, anyone missing out that you would have in your team. Love to read that in the comments. Don't forget, I'll be back all through this week and weekend with more content about the Autumn International Series games. We've got some cracker games coming up this weekend, kicking off with this one on Friday night. And we're going to see the likes of South Africa and Australia and Italy and Argentina and Wales and Japan and England play again this weekend. It's going to be very exciting stuff. So stick around with me here on Inside Rugby with Mark. The best way to do that is hit the subscribe button. Please give this video a like as well if you enjoy my content. And I'll see you again really soon right here on the channel. Until then, stay safe, stay well everyone. And it's bye for now from beautiful Mexico. See you again soon. Bye-bye.